Welcome, Trinidad and Tobago, to our News 4 report, a product of the Government Information Services Limited and the Ministry of Communications. I am Gregory McBurney. Let's take a look at the headlines. The Ministry of the People and Social Development takes its direct delivery program to Tobago. Government encourages citizens to develop non-traditional areas of agriculture. Outstanding members of the Trinidad and Tobago Regiment recognized for their contribution to national security. One of the major projects under the Ministry of Planning and Sustainable Development has been completed and approved by the Cabinet. The announcement comes from Planning Minister Dr. The Honorable Botawari during a recent post-Cabinet news briefing.
The National Spatial Development Strategy is the overarching framework that will spatially represent the socio-economic and environmental development priorities in Trinidad and Tobago. The National Planning Task Force, under the Town and Country Planning Division of the Ministry of Planning and Sustainable Development, earlier this year completed national consultations toward the formation of the strategy. On Thursday, Minister of Planning and Sustainable Development, Senator the Honorable Wahidra Tiwari, explained that the Cabinet had approved the NSDS and that it would soon go before the Parliament for debate.
This National Spatial Strategy has been 2 years in evolution with the establishment of a National Planning Task Force, and this task force has worked diligently, bringing together a number of stakeholders nationally. They have gone through a long and very fruitful period of consultation, including government agencies as well as the wider public.
The Honourable Minister emphasised the fact that the government had made good on its promise to produce the strategy.
Now, this policy is the first time that we've had a National Spatial Development Strategy in Trinidad and Tobago. It was a commitment of the manifesto that we made, as the Honorable Prime Minister points out in her introduction to the document here. And more than that, it is a major departure from the 1984 National Physical Development Plan, under which we've been operating up to this point.
Minister Tiwari said this latest development was a major step forward in the planning and facilitation of development in Trinidad and Tobago. He said the Cabinet also agreed to accept a report of the committee established to develop a framework for the implementation of a national spatial data infrastructure within Trinidad and Tobago.
And this is the final report here of the task force. And that task force basically, based on the report and the work that it has done so far, really looks at the national spatial data infrastructure in Trinidad and Tobago, the GIS capabilities of all the ministries that would bring together the data sets from the various ministries. So what this does is that basically the objective is to bring all the information together in one accessible place, and then on the basis of that to allow levels of access. And this is what this committee will proceed to do.
The Honourable Minister says this is related to the National Spatial Development Strategy.
So the spatial strategy has to do with land use and land development, and the data infrastructure is to bring all the other data that matters, so that you will be able, for instance, through the GIS system, to zone in on a particular part of Trinidad or Tobago and be able to determine within a certain square mile area all the facilities and resources that you have there, all the land that is available for the development, and therefore to address the issue of how best to facilitate development in a particular area.
The NSDS is expected to address national issues such as hillside development, housing provisions, land use conflicts, the growth poles, and disaster vulnerability. Nikolai Edwards, News 4.
The Ministry of the People and Social Development recently hosted a direct delivery program in Tobago. Successful applicants received various ministry grants and other handy items. Minister in the ministry, the Honorable Vanella Allen Toppin, along with other ministry officials, were on location to deliver to the people.
Grants such as the Micro-Enterprise Grant through the main People Issues Resolution Coordinating Unit, the Housing Repair Grant through the National Social Development Program, and the TT Card through the Targeted Conditional Cash Transfer Program, and other various social welfare grants were delivered to Tobagonians by the Ministry of the People and Social Development by Minister in the Ministry, the Honorable Vanella Allen Toppin. Residents of Tobago with disabilities also received wheelchairs and other health aids complements the ministry. Honorable Vanella Allen Toppin urged Tobagonians to access the grants given by the government through the Ministry of the People and Social Development and wiggle their way out of what some may term as poverty to become more productive citizens of the island.
We have to get productive in Tobago, and this is why we are here with all of these things. So if you have an idea, I want to have a popcorn machine, I want to have a snow cone machine, I want to do whatever you want to do, take it, access our services. We have micro-enterprise grants, we have mega enterprise grants.
She assured that the grants are easily accessible, but one must make that first step in seeking the assistance.
We have grants for mothers with Down syndrome children. We have elder citizens assistance programs. We are setting up in Tobago elder citizens homes and activity centers. We are building through the central government 2 special education schools in Tobago. And the list goes on and on.
Dwayne Denny, Director, National Poverty Reduction, noted that in 2012, 104 clients would have benefited from the Micro-Enterprise and Training Grant through the National Poverty Reduction and Eradication Coordinating Unit in the Ministry of the People and Social Development.
It is the aim of the ministry to bring you out, or bring us all out of that level of poverty. And if you look at the banner in front of you, there's a symbol that is showing a shoe. That shoe represents a step, because we need to make forward movements. We need to step forward in order to bring ourselves out of that level of poverty.
All the recipients are residents of Tobago. Some were given grants for home repairs, while others received equipment and appliances to assist them in their businesses. Reporting from Tobago, Patricia Nicholson, News 4.
When we return, what exactly is aquaponics and why is the Ministry of Food Production placing so much emphasis on developing it? As government continues its efforts to create agro-entrepreneurs in non-traditional areas, the very first aquaponics unit has been handed over to the Rotary Club of St. Augustine. According to the Honorable Minister of Food Production, the system is an organic one which is pesticide-free and can yield short-term crops.
The Honorable Devant Maraj, Minister of Food Production, presented the first aquaponics unit to the Rotary Club of St. Augustine, through which a training facility will be established at Valsayn South. Minister Maraj said the Rotary Club would select persons for the project and supply the units.
The Rotary Club of St. Augustine will identify the families that are deserving based on a criteria that they have established and working with the community of St. Augustine and environment. The aim of this, as envisaged by the ministry, is to introduce aquaponics to as a sustainable food production strategy in the society as a whole. I'd like to commend Mr. Lala and the Fisheries Division for working so closely with the Rotary Club, and this is the first venture of its type undertaken by the Ministry of Food Production, whereby we have partnered with an NGO to go out to the communities and assist in this area. I first saw this system in Rio Claro when I assumed office very early, and I found that this was a model that could have been easily translated and had relevance on those areas or those communities where land was an issue.
Minister Murad said the system was very sustainable.
The advantages of the system is very self-evident. It allows for a sustainable system to set up, whereby the person can raise tilapia and various food crops in a very small space in a short space of time. A variety of plants can be grown that will be relevant to the householder. A balanced diet and the nutritional benefits are again self-evident in this. This system is totally organic, so you don't get any chemicals being introduced with the foodstuff being raised. And of course, one of the major areas is that it gives a sense of empowerment to the householder, being now self-reliant in the area of food production, by and large in fish and some vegetables that he may choose to grow over at this point in time.
The Honourable Minister noted that 20 more units will be handed out within the next few weeks. Felicia Wilson, Mon News 4.
The Ministry of Tobago Development distributed a total of more than $100,000 to almost 20 organizations in Tobago, this all in the midst of the season for giving. These organizations ranged from non-governmental to faith-based to community-based organizations, all working towards the further enhancement of the citizens of Tobago. This is another one of a series of distributions done by the Ministry of Tobago Development for 2013.
Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Tobago Development, Mrs. Bernadette Solomon Kuruma, said the ministry is about building the human capital in Tobago. But she said the government may not be able to reach out to everyone who needs assistance in certain areas of development, and this is where the NGOs, CBOs, and FBOs come in.
We realize that no government with the best will in the world can touch the lives of all of its citizens all of the time. And that's why through partnerships and liaising with organizations like yours, we are hoping at this time of the year when it's about giving to touch the lives of many Tobagonians in a special way by distributing these checks so that you all can spread a little cheer and joy to the various groups and societies that you would be using it to enhance.
She told the recipients that the ministry would not have been able to give them the exact amount of money they would have requested, but advised that whatever amount was given, that it should be used in the best possible way. Advisor to the Minister of Tobago Development, Mr. George Stanley Baird, said it was the ministry's idea to develop an avenue whereby persons in the community can make their various requests for assistance. With this idea, he said some thought that it would have caused a level of confusion between the ministry and the Tobago House of Assembly.
We in the Ministry of Tobago Development are quite certain that there is no divide in assistance to organizations, which many of the organizations represented here today would have been organizations which have been functioning and dealing with the needs of the residents and people of Tobago. We cannot politicize it.
Mr. Baird reiterated that the funding is just a small token and not the amount the various organizations would have asked for.
As Permanent Secretary said, it's just tokens. I know because I sat on the committee for some months and I would have recognized what some organizations would have been asking for. As we know, the STTHA does have a greater command to service the needs of the island's needs. However, from a central government perspective, we have also been able to do this as we are doing today.
He noted that the Cabinet did approve the funding for this exercise. Some of the groups receiving checks included the North Regional SDA and St. Joseph RC Church, Bago Sports Club, Healing with Horses Foundation, Scarborough Secondary and the Bell Garden Anglican School, the Mount St. George and Blackrock Village Council, and the Serenity Vibes Steel Orchestra. The distribution ceremony took place at the ministry's office, Orange Hill Road, Scarborough, Tobago. Reporting from Tobago, Patricia Nicholson, News 4.
Sport is up after the break. With the commencement of 3 mega facilities and the refurbishment of countless recreation grounds and arenas, 2013 could only be described as a fantastic year for the Ministry of Sport. The workers behind the scene were recognized on Wednesday for their part in the ministry's success, and Wayne Cunningham was there. He has more in this report.
The Live Sport Quartet, known as ONE, was the headline act at the Ministry of Sport Staff Appreciation Ceremony at the Center of Excellence on Wednesday.
Oh, baby, well, baby, that's a pain we can have. And everybody knows that we're both torn apart.
But there were also some proud recipients on the night, such as the Eastern Regional Sporting Arena, which was adjudged the best facility. James Edwards of the Internal Audit Unit copped the award for individual performance. There was a tie between the Project Unit and the Research and Planning Unit for the most outstanding achievement for 2013. The Honorable Anil Roberts, Minister of Sport, commended his team for the good work.
It is Christmas time. We are the best team, the best ministry performing across the board in Trinidad and Tobago, and it's all because of each and every one of you. Whether it is the projects that are rolling out, the aquatic center, the velodrome, the tennis center, the 5 regional centers starting and they're signing tomorrow for the 515 million, the 52 pavilions across the country, the rural program, the women in sport, the coaching program, the SDOs, across the board between the Ministry of Sport and the sport company. Because of this team and everybody, we are now the #1 performing organization in Trinidad and Tobago. Well done. Give yourselves a round of applause.
The minister also outlined some successes in the arenas as well as the live sport program.
On top of that, the people who we serve are doing better. We've won 1 gold medal, Olympic gold medal, 3 bronze medals, 1 world championship gold, 1 world championship bronze, a junior silver medal, Pan Am bronze, 4 gold medals in the paraplegic games from Chantal Ince. Give her a round of applause. Unbelievable performances across the board because each individual is performing. So I don't want to perform no more. You know what? For the rest of my time, I call in some boys from the live sport program. We found them in Santa Flora. They say live sport is a waste of money because we should not spend money on those individuals who drop out of school and who want to choose crime. I think differently. I think it's money well spent, and I want to bring the boys from Santa Flora.
A thrill of hope, the weary world rejoices, for yonder brings a new and glorious morn. Fall on your knees.
Wayne Cunningham, News 4 Sports.
More news after the break. The Trinidad and Tobago Regiment is an arm of the Trinidad and Tobago Defense Force, which falls under the purview of the Ministry of National Security. Recently, it took time to recognize its members for their stellar service and contributions to the defense of this country.
It was a gala evening on Tuesday as the Trinidad and Tobago Regiment hosted its annual awards and recognition function. In its 3rd year, the function is one that is highly anticipated and celebrates distinguished men and women within the regiment.
This evening, we as a regiment saw the need to recognize our young men and women for their outstanding and distinguished service. It is evident that we live in a society today where negativity seems to be an overwhelming attribute. An attribute, ladies and gentlemen, that is absent in the lives of these awardees that are being recognized here today.
The function offered a variety of entertainment ranging from songs by members of the Trinidad and Tobago Regiment.
And the courage to face your mountains, they disappear.
Indian dance by the Shiv Shakti dancers. African dance by the Malik folk performers. And a piece done on the saxophone by a member of the regiment. Members of the regiment were recognized for 25 years distinguished service as they received the Long Service Award.
25 years giving your youth to this organization is not an easy thing. You all have weathered this storm, you all have performed well, and you all represent the Trinidad and Tobago Regiment.
Members of the regiment were also recognized for excellence in 6 categories. These included leadership and management, organizational representation, community service, professional accomplishment, academic or technical award for excellence, and gallantry. According to the commanding officer, a number of activities took place in 2013 that were noteworthy and proved that the regiment was developing itself as it sought to meet its goals.
So it has been a good year. It has been a year that a lot has happened. But we know that we still have quite a long way to travel. And I want to call on each and every member of the regiment for us to bind our shoulders together and go after developing for this regiment that we care so much about, a better place for everyone. I want to also say, remember at the end of the day, we are here to serve the people of Trinidad and Tobago.
The Trinidad and Tobago Regiment was established on July 23, 1962, and has enjoyed numerous years of excellent service to the people of this country. The 2013 awards and recognition function has proven that many members of the regiment are committed to the protection and safety of Trinidad and Tobago, and this level of performance can be expected in the years to come. Nikolai Edwards, News 4.
Well, that's how we wrap up this edition of our News 4 report, a product of the Government Information Services and the Ministry of Communications. I am Gregory McBurney. Thank you for joining us.